Well, good morning guys, and welcome to the show. Today we have something I'm super excited about. This is a new product from AudioControls that is coming out to complement their speakers that they have coming. The Pacific Northwest version, PNW. I'm gonna tell you all about it here in a second. Let's roll that intro, and I'll see you on the other side. So for those of you following at home, you know that AudioControls has launched a line of speakers. They have the subwoofer, Space, and Spike, and now they're going to be launching the PNW version of component coaxial speakers. This is something that came along with it, which is pretty exciting. And let me tell you why. We all want a three-way set, but as a manufacturer, it might be difficult to make a three-way set, put what you need in a box. So for example, do you need a three-way set with a 6.5? Do you need a three-way set with a 6x9? Don't know. You don't know either. What if you could just buy the 6.5 tweeter by itself, the 6x9 tweeter by itself, and then add in the mid-range to it? So you make sure you get the right mid-bass for what you're trying to do. If that's the case, you're gonna love this, and especially if you're planning on running it passive. Let's take a look at those speakers. For that, we're gonna hop over to the laptop because these things aren't out yet. This is pre-production. This is a pre-production version of this. We're getting our hands on it before it's actually available to you guys. Hopping over to the website, you have the coaxial 6x9, but we're more interested in this here, the 69 CS2 and the 65 CS2. These are your 6x9 and 6.5 components. Let's jump into the 6x9 because this is what's becoming very popular. They come with these two passive crossover networks, and they've done that so that it makes it easier to mount. Just in case like the 6x9 is in the door, you can use the low pass for that, and if the tweeter's up in the A-pillar or in the dash, you have the tweeter for that. Now these are also going to come with heat shrink, so you can remove them from these cool aluminum housings, and you can put them in a piece of shrink wrap tubing that's going to be in the box. What if I want to add this guy? The 2.5. The problem that I'm going to run into is that it comes with a mid-bass and tweeter, but then there's no one for this, and if I just put a cap or a coil, you know, I'd have to build a crossover network, and it could get complicated. Obviously, if I was going to go full active, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but not everyone is going to do that. That's where this guy comes in. For those scenarios where a full active system just isn't in the cards, this piece here will allow you to do a full passive system, not having to put in all those crossover boxes. So if you think about it, there's 4 that come with the speaker set, and then you need another one for a total of 6 of some kind. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna take up a lot of space. It's gonna be all over the car. Yeah, this on the other hand, this is a nice aluminum cased, it almost looks like an amplifier, 6-channel passive crossover. What we're going to show you today is the idea behind it, how it works, what it does, and how you're going to install this. As I've said before, this is a pre-production model. Some of the writing on this isn't accurate. What it's capable of doing is it has a 12 dB Linkwix-Riley crossover in it with center points at 350 for the transition between the mid-bass and the mid-range, and 4000 for the transition between the mid-range and the tweeter. You also have attenuation for both the mid-range and the tweeter, left and right, 0, -3, -6, so you have some volume control located here in the passive crossover. But on this side, this is where it gets interesting. These switches allow different combinations of how you want to run this, and we're going to show you all of those today and let you get an idea of how this may be something you're interested in or might want to use. For this demonstration, the signal coming from this is from a Rialto AudioControls home amplifier. We just need to see signal passing through. We're going to be playing Pink Noise from the Educar Test and Tune app. For monitoring it, we're going to be using our 2-channel electrical RTA, the iRTA2, plugged into our iPad running Octave RTA software. The first thing is make sure that our input switches are all set to off. We just want to use the main input here, which is also the tweeter input. Any frequencies that you see here on this are going to be because we're plugged into the wall. First up is the tweeter output, followed by with the mid-range output and then the mid-bass output. And all of that is being obtained by just these 2 wires of input. That would mean if we just had 2 channels from, let's say, a 5-channel amp or a 4-channel amp coming into this, we now have our 6 outputs. And like I said, we can attenuate them, the mid-range and the tweeter here, to match better with our mid-bass, or depending on how we have those speakers mounted. Something might be too bright or not bright enough. That would be scenario 1 for this. Scenario 2 would be, what if I had a 4-channel amp and I wanted to run tweeter and mid-range off of channels 1 and 2, and mid-bass, giving it more power, off of 3 and 4. To do that, we'll add in our 2nd channel, turn on our bi-wiring mode for the mid-bass. I'm going to unplug the mid-bass wire right now just to show how this is working. And what I mean by that, there's our tweeter, there's our mid-range, but we have no mid-bass playing. Plug in the mid-bass, and now we have the mid-bass. This means that I can use a 4-channel amp to power, let's say I made some A-pillars, or there's a tweeter and a mid-range located somewhere, and I only have a 4-channel amp. A lot of cars do this from the factory, where they'll have a tweeter and a mid-range, and they're run off of just 2 channels. This will allow you to mimic that same scenario. Third option is to run it with 6 channels of input. Now I know what some of you are going to say, well, why not just go active at that point? Well, you might not be able to, because the amplifier you chose might not have the appropriate crossovers in order to do this. Remember, it's a tweeter. So in order to run a tweeter, you have to have a 10-time multiplier switch and or some form of DSP that has infinitely adjustable crossover point. You might just have a straight power amplifier and it's not capable of doing that, as well as it may not have the bandpass crossover you need for the mid-range. Mid-range wire is attached. Turn on my bi-amp mode. Just like before, I'm going to unplug this. Test the tweeter. Nothing on mid-range, nothing on mid-bass. Plug in our new powered wires. Mid-range and mid-bass are now active. Now you'll notice here that these wires aren't connected. This is a stereo piece. The wires not connected here are the left channels. We were just using the right channels for this test. Power-wise, this is capable of anywhere between 150 to 200 watts, so keep that in mind. With this being a passive crossover, this is a super flexible passive crossover that may be just what you need to complete your installation and make it work the way you want to. That's what I got for you guys. Fernando, if you please.
On to the next one, guys.
Thank you guys so much for watching this pre-production new product from AudioControl, the PNW XN3 3-way passive crossover network. You guys have a great night as always, and I will see you later next time.
Bye.
That.